What's up, Hokie Nation? And welcome into episode 25 of Talking with Teel, presented by State Farm. The football assistants speak to the media. James Franklin appears on the Tech Sideline podcast. And does it all come down to Saturday for Virginia Tech men's basketball? All that and much more coming up on episode 25 of Talking with Teel, which starts right now. And we record on Wednesday, March 4th, 2026 from the Tech Solutions Studio in the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center. Remember to like, subscribe, and refer the show to a friend. I'm your host, Carter Hill. To my left, joining us in person is the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, David Teel. Across the way is our managing editor, Mr. David Cunningham. To his left is our senior staff writer, Andy Bitter. And Nick Brown, our director of media, is producing behind the scenes. Teel, as John Rothstein likes to say, this is March. Welcome back to Blacksburg. Thanks for hopping on.
Happy March to all who celebrate, and I can't imagine anyone who doesn't.
Happy March indeed. Happy March indeed. I do want to start with football because we do have some football news.
Sure.
And you guys did talk to all the assistant coaches yesterday that were the non-coordinators. So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it was everybody except for James Franklin, Brent Pry, Ty Howell. Is that correct before we move on? Okay, so you guys talked to all of the non-coordinating assistants, including Chuck Losey as well, the strength and conditioning coach. We'll go round table with it. You guys came here, talked to them in person. What were your overall takeaways of what you heard yesterday, Teel?
Well, we were limited. They brought them in 30-minute shifts. And because I know myself, I knew I wasn't going to get to everyone.
Right.
And then you get involved in a conversation and it's going well. So I really only had 3 prolonged conversations yesterday. Anthony Midget, Danny O'Brien, and to a degree, Sean Spencer, and was impressed by all 3 of them. Anthony Midget, to me, was my favorite interview yesterday, just my favorite storyline. Captain, senior on the 1999 team. And I guess he and Jared Ferguson are the 2 from that team that are that are now involved with the program. And I don't know that anyone else from that team besides Shane has ever been, Andy, you would know, an assistant coach here.
Maybe GAs or something like that.
Oh, yes. Midget was a GA in 2007.
Maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but never a full-time assistant.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm trying to think.
And he's going to be, if they deploy him correctly. Now, he hasn't recruited in a long time. He's been in the NFL for 11 years. But he's going to be an effective pitch man for this program. And not only that, an ambassador. He loves this place. He can tell you stories.
He can tell Florida recruits how to dress when they come up for official visits.
That was my favorite exchange of the whole day. Anthony Midget from this small town called Clewiston, Florida, had never been outside the state until his recruiting visit to Virginia Tech. And he didn't know. December 1995, he gets off the plane wearing shorts. And it was like 15 degrees.
Welcome to Blacksburg, Virginia.
Exactly. And even that didn't deter him. Tech was the first school to offer him. They were in the midst of that magical Sugar Bowl season where they beat Texas, to close out a 10-game winning streak. And he was all in.
Yeah, I tried to spread out a little bit more. I think I hit 7 of the guys. I didn't get to Fontel. I didn't get to Matt Moore because those are guys we have talked to before, and I'm trying to get like news stories and introduce myself to these new coaches. So I hit the other 6 assistants and then Chuck Losey afterwards, and got about 10 minutes at least with each of them. I thought Sean Spencer was. He's the one I'm going to write about first. Okay. I thought he was among
That's good because I'm going to do Midget first. So there we go. Step on
Alter it up. Coach Chaos. He's got Chaos tattooed on his forearm. On the other one, Wild Dogs. That's what he calls his team. It's sort of like Cheetah. He has like this animal theme to his group. And
persona.
He's like, I was watching some video. I think it was like in like Africa, like these wild dogs or something like that would like take turns like chasing down prey and then they surround it. He's like, that's sort of what defensive linemen are like. It's like, okay, he's got a theme. This whole thing, he's got a tattoo to go along with it. And, he was just talking about, essentially, James Franklin used the phrase getting the band back together because that's kind of what it is with him, Brent Pry, Spencer. They all coached together at Vanderbilt, all coached together at Penn State, and now again here at Virginia Tech. And I think there's just such a level of comfort and familiarity with what each other are trying to accomplish. And I think that's important on a staff is if you understand what the head coach, what the coordinator, what the position coach are all trying to do. They're all pulling in the same direction. And sometimes you don't see that within a coaching staff. So that was one of my big takeaways with that. And it's just good to talk to people.
Yeah.
It's been a while since we talked to people, get some FaceTime. I think all these guys are really personable. Just good to chat with people in person. And I plan to use all the quotes. It's an all of the Buffalo situation. I'm using everything I hope to get 7 stories out of this. We'll see.
Wow.
I think I talked to 6. I did not talk to Midget because when I walked in, you guys were all around Midget, but I got to talk to Spencer by myself for a good 15 minutes. And I thought he was great. And I asked him about Pry and I thought he had a really interesting answer. He's just like, Pry's back in his wheelhouse, man. Like he's just comfortable. Like he loves doing this, and he's the same guy every day. And Fontel, when I spoke with him, said very similar things about Pry. Just that, his demeanor has not changed. He's been the same guy, even though his duties have been different. It was interesting. I talked to Matt Moore for a while, and the way he phrased it was essentially last year he kind of had 5 or 6, maybe 7 guys he could play, but if somebody didn't do their job at practice, there was nobody to step up and take their place. Kind of going back to that the 3 levels that James Franklin has kind of talked about in terms of depth. And he's like, this year, he's like, I'm not penciling anyone in. Like, we've got so much more depth top to bottom, and guys are going to push each other, and they're going to have to kind of earn it. And I think that's kind of an overarching theme of this team is that James Franklin wanted to build more depth, and you see it right there just with Matt Moore talking about how it's shaping up his room.
I thought Danny O'Brien was really interesting talking about the quarterbacks. Obviously, he's very familiar with Grunkemeyer, and shame on me for not doing enough homework ahead of time. I didn't realize that Danny O'Brien and Bryce Baker went to the same high school and played for the same coach.
No, I didn't realize that either. I came in late on that interview, so that is interesting.
Yes.
That explains a little bit more of why Baker would choose to come here.
Yes. And he said, we, meaning Penn State, we recruited the heck out of that kid. We wanted him. And to me, I was like, okay, yeah, I had the same reaction as you. Okay, now it makes even more sense. And just his description of Grunkemeyer and how, yes, it's a cliche that you always prepare as if you're the starter. But he said he lived it. He embodied it. And it showed when Drew Aller went down on the last play against Northwestern.
A couple other interesting ones. Norval McKenzie, and talking to him, he had a very brief time where he was with James Franklin when he got to Vanderbilt. I think he said it was 2.5 months before he got another assistant job and moved on. He said there were 3 people. It was in the building at the time when Franklin got hired there. And it was him. And they are still now in the program. Him, Michael Hazel, and Andy Frank. So 2 of the front office people that have been with Franklin, a couple other stops. Also, I thought this was, and I asked him about this, his sons' names are Storm and Bolt.
Nice.
And I'm like, are they fast? He's like, they're fast. it's like when you name them that, you're sort of like taking a chance. It's sort of aspirational. Like you move them, like this is going to motivate them to be pretty fast. And they've turned out to be pretty fast.
How old are they?
I think they're 10 and 8, something 9 and 7, something like that. I have it on my tape recorder. But he's like, his wife was on board when they wanted something interesting for the first name, and they're like, Storm, we'll go with that. And then he's like, when you have the second one, you can't be like Storm and Steven. Like, you have to have like a good name to go along with that. So Bolt was the second name that they chose. Those are awesome names. Those are incredible things. The other was Nick Perry. Talked to him briefly. I was trying to get through people quickly at the end. And, I asked him, Teel and I were talking about this beforehand, how many rings does this guy have?
4, right?
And I asked him, like, how many rings do you have? He's like, oh man, like championship rings? Because you think about SEC West championship, SEC championships, national championships. He's like, probably like 14 or something like that. I mean, the guy didn't play forever, and he coached for a little bit there at Alabama as well. That's why he has so many rings. But I think 14 was the number overall. 4 national championship rings, 2 as a player, 2 as a coach with Alabama. And obviously he was in the secondary at Alabama, and you always hear about Nick Saban, and it's Nick Saban would say, yeah, this guy's the position coach in the defensive backs room, but I'm actually the defensive backs coach, because he gets in there and he's hands-on. That's what he did when he was a position coach, and he is technique oriented, and he takes over the room from the sounds of it, from his own admittance when he's on game day talking about this stuff. So just kind of interesting, his background and working with Nick Saban. I mean, you can't get a better person to learn under in the business than Nick Saban if you're a defensive backs coach. So like, think about Nick Perry's background and how he got to this spot.
Yeah, much like Midget working under and playing for Mike Tomlin, who cut his teeth as a defensive backs coach before he ended up in Minnesota as the defensive coordinator for that one season before landing the Steelers job.
And Midget has such a history with Virginia Tech, because he played here, obviously Bud, the entire time. Yep. Bud sounded like a pretty, influential figure in his coaching life. Played for Whammy Ward when he was here. I think he was a GA here when Torian was here in the defensive backfield, and now he's the defensive back, or the safeties coach here now. So,
and Brent Pry was a GA.
That's right, Pry,
when Midget first got here.
Yeah. So I mean, the connections, it all makes sense when you hear about how this whole thing lined up.
There's one other unique thing that I want to mention. So when I spoke with Fontel Mines, I asked him about Keyshawn Brown from Duke.
Oh, good. I wanted to ask him about that.
Keyshawn Brown. He said he just calls him Q.
Queso. It's right there. Queso.
Marketing
opportunity.
Fontel Mines said when Q was in the portal, he called him up, Mines did, and apologized because Brown, in high school, Brown visited and went to a camp at Virginia Tech, and Mines chose not to offer him, and he went to Duke. And Mines said, I called him up, and we obviously wanted him here, but I called him up and was honest with him, and I was like, I'm sorry, man, that was my fault.
Mea culpa, right?
Yeah, I overlooked you, and he's like, dude, you could tell Mines was so excited just to have him in that room, but kind of a weird full circle moment. And you don't see coaches kind of, admit it, own up to that.
Fess up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that shows Mines' character, and he could not stop raving about Brown and just his impact, and a guy who just does all the little things.
If he's as good as the last Duke transfer they got, and he is Peoples, they'll be in very good shape if he turns out that good. Yeah.
We mentioned Chuck Losey. Andy, you got to go over to the weight room on Monday, see those guys kind of get after it?
We did. Yeah, it was... I'd asked go see one of the early morning workouts.
Okay.
Which I think you get more out of, because you see them interaction with the coaches. You see how they react to different, drills and things that they put them through, and they're really pushing them to the limit with that. We got to see it. They were doing cleans, I think it was a max day or something like that. So we got to see a little bit of it. I don't feel like we got the full weight room experience. And talking to Losey afterwards, he's like, well, we'll get you into something better than that in the future. So it was interesting. It was just seeing them lift weights, though. Okay. It wasn't man, now I get a sense of it. I mean, you see the weight they're moving around, and Kamari Copeland effortlessly lifting these kind of weights. It's like, yeah, they're pretty strong. These guys are pretty strong. But we then talked to Losey last night First of all, his mustache up close is just, it's resplendent. Like it's so great. It's just well crafted. He says he's had it for like 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, since his daughter was born.
He's like, my kids wouldn't even recognize me without this thing. And I think he said his father-in-law also has a handlebar mustache. So that's kind of the genesis of that whole thing. Also, he seems just like a very straightforward, like tells it like it is type of strength coach. Like he wasn't really animated. And maybe he does get animated when he's in the weight room or something like that. But he kind of reminded me a little bit like talking to Gentry when he was here. Because he wasn't, when you talk to him in interviews, like this guy is kind of like mild-mannered and stuff like that. It's like that was not the case, I think, when you got him in the weight room. I think, the beast comes out at that point and he gets a lot more animated about stuff. But just to, explain their setup, he sounds very comfortable with James Franklin and their history that they've had together. And again, I think they're just on the same page. And I think that matters within a program, especially with a strength coach. You can't have somebody that sees these players for the majority of the offseason and it's something completely different than what the head coach is preaching once he gets around the team for most of the time. So I think if they're on the same page, they have the same message with stuff, that's an important thing.
He's been with Franklin continuously longer than just about anyone, right?
Since Vanderbilt. And Pry, that's not true of Pry. That's not true of Spencer. It's not true of Hazel. Maybe Andy Frank.
I was going to say Andy Frank because you mentioned that they told you that Andy Frank was one of the three original gangsters.
Yeah, so I think that's been continuous for the whole time. So yeah, pretty long history there.
Speaking of the weight room, did you see the video that Hokies football put out yesterday?
No.
There's a video of Kamari Copeland squatting 675
Oh, I did
pounds.
see that, yes.
I think he did 2 or 3 reps. 675 Kamari Copeland squatting. I mean, and Sean Spencer could not stop raving enough about him.
He could not. He thinks that dude is a pro.
Yeah.
Did you notice anything different in the facilities when you were there, Andy, by the way?
Well, we didn't really they escorted us into the players' lounge, so we didn't really sort of see the front of Merriman. So I don't know what they're doing up there. Something, I guess.
Okay.
I would imagine they're doing something. You can see it down where we go in by the Olympic weight room. There used to be a hallway. I think baseball used to be down there. They vacated that a while ago, though.
Mm-hmm.
But they're redoing that whole hallway. So there's projects going on. I don't think it's as major as it maybe sounded like earlier, but they're doing stuff around the building.
Okay. Well, David, you were the only one here for it, but James Franklin was on the. Well, Nick was too, of course, our best podcast producer in the land. James Franklin comes on the Tech Sideline podcast on Monday night, and obviously he's getting a lot of attention because TSL was able to have him on in studio. For everybody to listen to it, because I know everybody here did, what was everybody's thoughts on what we heard? I know it's funny we mentioned the facilities and everything. I think there was a little bit of pushback about it being a football-only building, and then it was described as kind of a little bit of a football-only building, but that's kind of the way it goes. So what was everybody's thoughts on what we heard from James Franklin right here on Tech Sideline Podcast, episode 473?
We'll put it this way. If you're a non-football staffer or athlete, try going in that front entrance at Merriman. See how far you get into the building. It's pretty much a football-only building at this point.
It struck me as a disingenuous talking point.
I think overall he can't. Like I listened to it, and I'm like, first of all, that's a head coach.
Yeah.
Like he's not feeling his way out to be a head coach. This is obviously a guy who's done it, for 15 years now, whatever it's been, at a couple places, at a major place like Penn State, and has seen it at the highest level, and then wants to implement that vision at a place like Virginia Tech. He wants to get it to that, in that same neighborhood. And I think there are certain things that, might come across as demanding or, oh, that's a big ask, but he's pushing for it. That's just his nature. He's going to do that as a head coach. And I think that comes across with the way he talks. So, I think with Pry, even with Fuente to a degree before that, it's like this guy's still trying to figure out how to be a head coach at this level. That's not the case with Franklin. He comes in on day one and he knows how to do it and he knows what he wants, and he's going to go out there and try to push for it. So I thought that came across in the interview when you guys were talking to him, that it's very clear his vision for this program.
You were there.
I mean, yeah, I thought when Will and Chris and I were coming up with some different questions, and I asked Andy for help with it too. We're in such a weird point right now where it's been so long since he was hired and so long since he assembled his staff and got all these portal acquisitions and high school recruits, but we're not in spring ball yet. So you're in this like weird spot. And we tried to come up with stuff that hadn't been talked about. And I thought we did a really good job of covering different topics that Franklin hadn't touched on. And to kind of go off with Andy's point, Andy actually suggested the question we asked about NIL and revenue sharing, and I thought his answer to that was really interesting. The recruiting pitch, essentially, that that money cannot be the number one thing, and if you're asking us and that's your top priority, probably not a good fit, and vice versa. But also you can see that and hear that his stance on it has kind of changed over, and he's learned from how to handle it. And like, he still cares about the transformational student athlete experience, but you can also invest actual dollars into your program now, and you can find a good balance there.
Doesn't every coach say,
yes,
if the first question is about money, this probably isn't the place for you?
Yes.
It's
That's what you say when you don't have the money to pay it. If you're at LSU, you're like, if your first question is money, our answer is how much do you need to come here?
But I thought one thing that was really striking, and it's not just James Franklin, it's so many coaches these days, but especially James Franklin, because he is clearly, I don't know if obsessed is too strong of a word, with facilities and infrastructure. And the notion that he took this job without ever having been in the building. I know you can do virtual tours. I know Michael Hazel told him things about the complex, but really? And you don't have to do it under light of day. Yeah. I mean, I remember Craig Littlepage telling me that they didn't want anyone to see Tony Bennett come to Charlottesville, and they did their best to hide it. Under cover of darkness, they took him into JPJ, and to the point where they didn't even want the security people to see him. But they wanted him to see what he was going to get. Now, JPJ is something you want to show off. Maybe Virginia Tech didn't want to show off its buildings. But for someone like that who clearly values the infrastructure, to say, yeah, I'll take it, even though I've never seen it. Man.
Also, in Franklin's situation, he wasn't employed at the time.
Yeah,
like usually you're trying to hide that.
Good point.
Usually a coach will not see a campus. Like
Yeah.
you'll accept a job sight unseen because you don't even want to run the risk of that getting out there if you don't get the job. But Franklin was unemployed at the time. Yeah. Like it would have been a big deal if somebody saw him on campus, but it wouldn't have, submarined his previous job if he had done that. I just imagine him get in here and be like, let's start with Castle. And Virginia Tech's like, let's start somewhere. Let's go with the Beamer Barn first. That's one of our better facilities. Wear a jacket when you go in there at least. I thought it was interesting. He said it on there, and there was the one time I wish I was on the pod, just to follow up real quick. It was my daughter's birthday that night, so I'm like, bad timing. Can't do this night. I was on my way to Chick-fil-A to get dinner.
And bravo to you, by the way. Priority.
It was a big 10th birthday. Hope it went well.
10. I can't believe it's 10.
That's
I know.
crazy.
But he said, there are some questions I wish I'd asked. And then he went on talking. He probably talked for another 2 minutes after that. But I would have been like, what questions? What questions did you want to ask or that you wish you'd ask before you come here? And I don't know if he would have given an answer.
He would.
Because it probably would have been.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I guarantee he wouldn't have given an answer. But I would have wanted to ask it just to see how he would have danced around answering that particular question. But that's what I really want to know is what did he get here with? And it's like, this is something we could have addressed beforehand because he's got a list of stuff.
Yeah. And he danced around Chris's question about what have you learned about Virginia Tech that you didn't know since you got here. And he went on a long filibuster, which he is wont to do.
You got 10 questions in, though.
We did get 10 questions.
Oh,
was it really?
10 questions in 30 minutes.
What was the over-under on it?
Oh my God! Yeah,
7.5.
Yeah,
maybe?
I would not have thought as many as 10.
No, I don't. No,
Because how many did we get when we had the
4?
And which one?
The press conference where he
the press conference
had coaches?
Yeah, where he had like the
Five.
14-minute opening statement.
5 questions.
Yeah.
I know that number specifically, but yeah. So 10 questions was pretty good for a half-hour podcast.
That's pretty good. Do you guys remember that couple-week run, like late October, where it was like, oh, James Franklin spotted at 622 North. Oh, James Franklin's at the barber shop, which is funny because he's, But
first of all, no, it was Mark Stoops who was at 622 North with John Boleyn.
Yeah. That's right.
What? Stop it.
That's actually why I remember asking you on one of these podcasts about Mark Stoops, and obviously we knew that wasn't going to happen, but for conversation's sake, I remember the 622 North rumor was out there. Somebody said something about L-Rods. It was a crazy couple weeks in Virginia Tech.
That pops up every single coaching cycle. Some stupid rumor about somebody was seen at 620. Shaka Smart was at 622 North.
Smart. Yeah.
With who was he with at 622? Was it with Weaver or Witt? I can't remember. I can't remember which cycle that was.
This is when he was at VCU, I assume.
Yeah, okay. it was BS. The whole thing was BS, but it's always 622 North. Like, is that the fanciest restaurant you can think of here? Like, go with the Farmhouse or something like that. I'll walk down the street.
I was going
right
to say,
there.
out by your
walk down the street and go see if they're there.
I did think it was funny. There were so many comments about, people were like, oh my gosh, Chris doesn't have a hat on. Chris is like trying to match Franklin. And I think Nick can correct me, but I believe when Franklin walked in yesterday, he told Chris, nice hair.
Nice.
Nice head.
It's nice head. Nick, nice head.
I make that. It was a good look. It's a good look for James Franklin. I like it. So, yeah, I guess there's some other stuff too. So the Liberty, it's funny. We literally the last couple weeks we're talking about future schedules just for kind of the fun of it. And the back 2 games of the Liberty series no longer on the schedule. 2029 was supposed to be in Blacksburg. 2030 was supposed to be in Lynchburg. Now, both those seasons, Virginia Tech has 2 Power 4 schools currently on the schedule. But with Liberty no longer, I should say, being on the schedule in 2029, 2030, what type of opportunities does that present for Virginia Tech? Or really, I guess another way to phrase that question is this just a way, you probably don't want to go to Liberty, play Liberty back-to-back years, and do you want to get another VMI on the schedule with 2 other Power 4s currently on the schedule?
Well, in one of the years, Carter, 29 or 30, they had 4 non-conference, so they had to shed 1.
30 had Arizona, at BYU, Old Dominion, and Liberty.
Yes.
Okay. I think it was at Liberty in 2030.
Correct.
So that's taken care of.
go.
You don't need to add there. So I guess only in 29 you need to add 1.
29 currently has at Arizona and Maryland.
And Maryland. Okay. And
so
nothing else.
You're not going to get, it's not going to be, unless there's further shuffling with that. I can't imagine. They've already got 2 Power 4 teams.
Yeah, it's either going to be an FCS or a group of 6. And I mean, James Madison.
Don't hold your breath on that one.
No, I know. You're asking me who I would lobby for. James Madison.
James Madison would be the toughest of those 3 teams that they'd have on the schedule.
Or I always go back to Army.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to get, Bowling Green or something. Something like that. It's not going to be a marquee matchup. My thoughts with the Liberty thing is, did they go far enough?
Yeah.
2 more games they probably could have canceled on their season openers, both of them.
And it's just like, that's what's...
I mean, it was originally set up. Weren't the other Liberty games also season openers?
They were going to open against Liberty 4 consecutive seasons. Would have gotten so old.
I mean, it's going to get old as it is because they have opened up against Liberty before. So I don't really know why you're doing it in 27, 28. And I hope that there's some still shuffling to take place there that they can work something out. They can get a more interesting game to start the season, whether that's a conference game, that's sort of a marquee conference game, or I don't think you want to open up with Notre Dame. Those are kind of set where they are in November, but could Maryland move up to be one of those games? I don't know. Yeah. Move one of those games to Ireland or something like that. That'd be. I'm jonesing for one of those games. I haven't got one of those yet. Are you going to go to Brazil for NC State? NC State UVA?
Really hoping.
Yeah, I'd love to see the Hokies in the Aer Lingus opener or something like that. Because first of all, I'd love for the company to pay for me to go overseas like that, because that's the way to travel overseas is to do it. But second of all, it'd just be a fun experience to see it in another place like that. But I don't think with the way this is shaping up, the direction of college football scheduling is the schedules aren't getting better in the non-conference. They're getting less interesting unless you sort of get one of these one-off games at a neutral site. I think you're going to see fewer and fewer of these home and homes because it just becomes more difficult with the power conferences all going to 9 games.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear the SEC folks kind of calling out the Big Ten. because the SEC and the ACC are committed to not only playing the 9 conference games, but also at least one Power 4 peer in the non-conference for a total of 10. But the Big Ten has not done that. And there are Big Ten teams like Penn State last season. There are Big Ten teams this season, hello, Indiana Hoosiers, who are not playing any.
It's not just this season. You want to hear Indiana's future schedules here coming up? 2026, North Texas, Howard, Western Kentucky. 27, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, UMass. 28, Austin P, Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio. Not Miami, Florida. 29, Ball State, Eastern Illinois, Western Kentucky. They play Notre Dame in 2030 and 2031.
They'll get canceled.
UConn in 20. Yeah, probably.
So they don't have a Power 4 game on the schedule out of conference until 2030, essentially. Then,
yeah,
is what it is.
That's weak. That's weak. But I mean, I guess when you're undefeated, who's going to argue with you at that point? But I think if you're on that bubble, why did Miami get into the bracket last year? They beat Notre Dame. They don't beat Notre Dame. They don't have that. So I think you run the risk if you schedule lightly like this. If you don't run the table or do very well in your conference play, you don't get that benefit of the doubt. And I hope the committee looks at these schedules and looks at these teams, sort of with a jaundiced eye. Like, you really didn't challenge yourself in this. So if you say you go 5-3 in conference play and you played 3 marshmallows in the non-conference, like, don't give that team the benefit of the doubt. Don't put that team in the bracket at that point just because they played nobody.
Yeah, I think a lot of future non-conference scheduling, guys, is going to hinge on what the playoff model is. Mm-hmm. Is it going to 16? Now you hear more and more chatter about 24.
I don't get that. I don't understand it.
Tennessee was the school that came out the other day and said they're lobbying for 24.
Josh Heupel.
Of course, they're lobbying for 24. Yeah. They want to get in the field.
Sure.
They would have gotten in the 2014 field this year, probably, right?
I think so.
But not.
So
it's just. I think you want to avoid. I've never been a big we got to protect the sanctity of the regular season. But I think if you expand the playoff too much, what is the end of the NFL season like? It's horrible. Yeah. The last week of the NFL season is just everybody's resting their starters. Just like one game that matters in this whole thing. Could you ever get to the point in college football where you're resting your starters late in the season? I don't know if it gets to that point, but I don't even think you want to give the incentive that it's a possibility. And if all of a sudden there's no championship game that you're playing for within the conference, they'll get rid of those in the 24-team format. You've already got your seeding locked up at a certain spot. Could important games at the end of the season be like, we're just going to rest up for the playoff part of this because that's what they've deemed as the all-important thing? I don't know. I don't like the direction they're going with this whole thing.
I want to circle back to Tech real quick because in 2029 now, with the removal of Liberty, Tech, the unique thing is that now that Liberty's off the schedule, Virginia Tech could open with whoever it wants in 2029. Maryland and Arizona, home and away, respectively, are currently on the schedule, but those are, I think, weeks 2 and 3. So it'd be that's the first time over these next couple of years, unless you remove Liberty, that James Franklin will be able to kind of pick and choose whoever he wants to open against. So,
and by 2029, you've got it rolling.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Presumably.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, you would hope that it'd be rolling at that, but they've got problems if it's not rolling by 2029 under this staff. That's a game where you could set up something big to start a season.
I look at that and I'm like, that's prime viewership, like even something like the Aflac kickoff like we saw this year, or like Andy said, go to Ireland or play in Arlington, Texas.
Penn State. New Commander Stadium, 2029 season opener. Who says no?
I mean, I think it would love that, but that's what that opportunity sets up for. And but
I think you'd have to shed one of the other.
Yes,
you're not going to play 12,
or maybe one of those teams would want to move.
One of the others goes to a neutral site
to week 1, move to neutral site. You could move Maryland, move it to a neutral site, or Arizona, move to a neutral. I mean. I think that would be unique, and I don't know. It's like it just sucks. Like you pull up the schedule and it's like, okay, Virginia Tech's going to open against VMI this year, Liberty next year, and Liberty the year after that. And it's just like, just boring. Like
when does the Commander Stadium open again?
I don't think it's till 30 or 31.
I think that's right.
So I like your idea from a couple episodes ago, Andy. Move one of those Maryland games to the Ravens Stadium.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great. Play at M&T Bank.
2029, Arizona and Vegas, Maryland in the Ravens Stadium, and then add somebody else. You play the Aflac game in the Georgia Dome. You could tour all these NFL stadiums to start the season. That would be a great selling point, would it not? Tennessee, add Tennessee to the schedule in
Nashville?
No, Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Oh,
in Atlanta. Okay. Go down there.
Yeah, why not?
They would never do that. It would never happen in a
you
million
never
years.
have 12 Power Fours.
You would never do it.
Season.
But wow, when you get people's attention in the preseason, hey, Virginia Tech's going to play at 3 NFL stadiums before the season. They get into ACC play.
Yeah, that's why I just
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I was talking with I think it was Chris about this in the office the other day, and it's just the football scheduling is always just so frustrating because unlike basketball where coaches are scheduling a year out, and you used to before the portal have a good idea of who are you going to have back and whatnot. It's a little bit more fluid nowadays, but it's like you're planning out a year in advance. It's like, okay, Virginia Tech last year said we're going to go to Battle of Atlantis this year. It's like Virginia Tech football's over here. They're like, yep, in 2017 we're scheduling Liberty through 2030, and it's just so Virginia Tech is on. This is the third Virginia Tech head coach since the Liberty series was scheduled. It's just different.
The other part of it, when these games get announced, unless it's like a 10-year series with the ODU or something like that, there's no guarantee that these games even come to fruition. Because, I'll always bring up the Wisconsin series because it's been delayed for 3 decades. But Michigan never happened. Penn State, for circumstances that were unique, never happened. South Carolina came on the schedule and then quietly left the schedule as a home and home. So that's gone. So they have these ones in the future against Ole Miss and Alabama, and I'll still say Wisconsin's still out there. I'll believe it when I see it. You just can't trust that these games ever play. It's like there's so much. It's like when somebody signs with the school, you're like, are they going to actually play or do anything for that school? It's when they announce these games, like, are they actually going to play that? I look at it and I go, I don't know. Until it's a year or 2 out, I don't think you can really believe that these games will be played.
So speaking of that, it goes back to something you were saying a couple weeks ago, Andy. Do you think that Arizona series gets played straight up? 2029, 2030. 2029 is in Tucson, 2030 in Blacksburg. There is an open date now in 2029, but do you think that Arizona series gets played?
I say, yeah, why not? I mean,
I'd like to see it get played because it's unique. But if you're looking at the schedule and going, what doesn't make sense regionally? That's one that I could see. A little questionable whether that holds up. But again, I mean, the athletic directors at those two places know each other and have worked together. So I think if one of them were to leave before that, maybe that affects the series. But as it is right now, I could see it going through.
My only question would be the viewership.
Right.
You can do better.
But if you, I mean,
but
we
if
already
Arizona is suddenly a wagon, I mean, who knows?
Yeah, well, if we saw with Virginia Tech, unfortunately, moving the Wisconsin game to Charlotte. But if one of those, like you move one of those games, the game in Blacksburg, the game in Tucson to a neutral site, and all of a sudden it's, like that 2029 game, like they've got an opportunity for an opener. Can you imagine if they move that game to a neutral site and you're playing week 1? Like, oh, okay. That draws a little bit more viewership than a week 2 game.
Put it on
in
like
Tucson.
Put it on like Labor Day or the Sunday before Labor Day, and then you have your own viewership slot. And, they can get creative with some of this stuff. I think when you have Liberty as the opener, it doesn't allow you to do any of that.
Yeah, but I think it'd be a cool road trip for sure. And
Definitely be a cool road trip. Yeah,
and BYU of course is on there too. And
I hope they keep that one.
Yeah,
because I would like to go out and see that stadium.
The stadium, the backdrop. I think that's a cool series, and obviously BYU has national relevance for a lot of people too.
Yeah. Teal, did you cover that UVA-Wyoming game?
I did
they
not.
Opened the season. I covered that one, and it's just, first of all, you're in the stadium. It's like these mountains.
I've
in the
been
backdrop.
there. I mean,
you've been to Wyoming? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the only time I've been out there. But like, you fly into Denver and then you drive up to Wyoming, and it's just like, is this a movie I'm driving through? Like, I can imagine BYU is similar to be out there. So I hope that game stays on the schedule. I hope I'm employed at that point. We're talking about 5-6 years down the line. But I think that'd be a cool one to go cover.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, with that, let's step aside and hear from our title sponsor, State Farm, here on Talking with Teel. Switching is easy. We do it all the time. We switch on the lights. We switch TV channels. Some of us switch partners while square dancing. Well, that's a stretch. But what's not a stretch is how you can switch and save with State Farm. In fact, a group of State Farm agents that support TechSideline.com can switch you over to State Farm so you can start saving today. These State Farm agents and their team are ready to welcome you to the State Farm neighborhood. Check out Tech Sideline for the agent in your area. It's easy to switch and save. Just give them a call. When you want the real deal, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. And welcome back to this edition of Talking with Teel, presented by State Farm. To basketball, we go real fast. Let's look at Virginia Tech this weekend. The Hokies go to John Paul Jones Arena in Charlottesville. Ironically enough, David Cunningham will not be there. He will be the ACC Women's Basketball Tournament. It will be David Teel and Andy Bitter covering the Hokies on the men's basketball side of things for TechSideline.com.
Andy told me the last time you went to JPJ was 2008.
I think it was. Yeah.
It's going to be fun. I hope you have a good time. I haven't really
covered basket. I've covered some home games for Virginia Tech since returning to the beat, but last time I'd have to look up the last game I covered there, but it was when I was covering UVA back in the day. So
okay,
Coach Lato.
Yeah, strong finish with Coach Lato there.
Well, Teel, you look at the matchup on Saturday. Obviously, Virginia is a very, very, very good basketball team. This is going to be a challenge for the Hokies, but let's say hypothetically they do win Saturday afternoon, which again is going to be a tall task. But if they do, I'll put you on the spot. What are the chances the Hokies get in the NCAA tournament if they go to Charlottesville and pick up a victory?
Pretty good.
Okay.
I think better than a coin flip. I mean, their metrics are decent. We've got them up there on the board. Ken Palm's not great, but I'll tell you where they are in a little better shape. Is on the resume side. There are 6 metrics on the team sheets, and 3 of them are resume-based, 3 of them are predictive. The resume-based metrics are much kinder to the Hokies. 50 KPI, 49 wins above bubble, and 51 strength of record. And obviously those numbers would improve if they were to win Saturday and complete their first regular season sweep of Virginia since 2010. It's only happened twice, 2008 and 2010.
Carter, I think it's pretty easy. Like, that's your key right there. Golden opportunity, beat Virginia, but easier said than done. The Hokies have only, like they won there last year against a UVA team that was nowhere near.
Was terrible.
Yes. Well, was nowhere near this, how good this team is. And that was the first time Tech had won in JPJ since 2017-18, that Kerry Blackshear shot. It just doesn't happen often. And Ryan Odom has this team rolling right now. I know they played Wake close yesterday after Saturday against Duke. But we've seen the Hokies beat them already this year. And what a different matchup it's going to be.
I was going to say, what's interesting is how different both teams are.
Yeah, UVA did not have Jakari White in that first one, and the Hokies did not have Antonio Dorn, Toby Lowell, or Tyler Johnson, and we'll have all of them back. I think this is exactly what you want, with the exception of it's spring break and some of UVA's students might not be there, just like it was winter break for Virginia Tech. But outside of that, I think it's strong on strong.
Yeah.
UVA's lost, what, 1 game there all year?
Yes, to Carolina, butchered a 16-point lead and lost it. Full strength Carolina, though. That was with Caleb Wilson.
So, yeah, I mean, if they could go in there and win, big if, as we've said, does any bubble team have a win recently that would be on par with it? I know Ohio State beat Purdue, I think, the other day.
Yes, but that was in Columbus.
Okay. I mean, Auburn's not beating anybody lately, and I know Bruce Pearl's going to lobby them to be over an undefeated non-power conference team, but that's ridiculous. It just feels like the bubble is kind of weak this year. I don't know. I look at it, and I look at a team like Virginia Tech, and it's got pretty decent metrics and all that stuff, but just needs like a headlining win that you can point your fingers to and go, this is the reason why. At the end of the year, we're playing like this, and this is a game that should get you in. They just don't have that. And, they played Miami really tough, lost in the last minute, hung with Carolina. It's not like they got blown out in that game, but it never really felt like they had a chance to win that one. Just the opportunities that they've had haven't been able to close it out at the end of games. So we'll see.
This is not exactly a ringing endorsement of tournament expansion.
No, that was, you want to add 8 teams. It's like, why? What? I know why they want the money from the additional TV exposure and games like that, but these teams don't deserve it. It's not going to make the tournament better, in my opinion, to do it, especially if you expand it like this and it's just going to be a bunch of middling power conference teams. Like, I don't need a bunch of 500 conference teams, ACC and SEC schools being in there. I'd rather see some, mid majors and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting, Andy. Each year, of course, the committee, I think for the last dozen tournaments, has revealed the last 4 that didn't make the field. And if you go back through that history, about 40% of those teams were mid-majors that were among the last 4 excluded. That's a far greater ratio than the mid-majors usually get from the at-large pool. So I think that's why you see folks like A10 Commissioner Bernadette McGlade and WCC Commissioner Stu Jackson being such strong advocates for tournament expansion, because they realize that they would stand to, on a ratio basis, get a greater share of the at-large pool.
Do you believe that? Or do you believe that the tournament expands, that all of a sudden those teams become the first 4 out of the next one? And like, actually, we looked at North Carolina's resume and take it in a broader picture. Because, I feel like that's the fear with football expansion. You get it bigger, it's like you're not going to afford opportunities to smaller schools. It's so you can get, Tennessee and Notre Dame and Vanderbilt into the field. In a case like this, I feel like if you do it in basketball and you expand it, it's just not going to open up more opportunities, because you already see the talking points. The Bruce Pearl thing lately is just ridiculous. Like, Auburn should be in over this undefeated Miami of Ohio team. It's like, if you can go undefeated during the season and lose 1 game in your conference tournament, and people are like, well, you're not in the tournament at that point, what's even the point of playing if you're a mid-major?
That would be unprecedented. And so too, presuming Auburn loses Saturday at Alabama, which would give Auburn, I believe, 15 loss. They would be 16-15.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The worst at-large records are Georgia in 2005 and Villanova in 1991 at 16-14. They got in. Now, Auburn's going to get yet another loss in the SEC tournament. So that's 6. There has never been
16-16
or 17-16, depending on if they advance.
Losing 9 of 11 to finish the season.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
No team with 16 L's has ever received an at-large bid.
I was going to ask you about that real fast before we get back to Virginia Tech and Virginia. So clearly, you do not believe Auburn should be in the tournament under those circumstances. Is that
absolutely not? Although, if you want to make the metrics argument and just play by the numbers, Auburn's non-conference strength of schedule, I believe, is number 1 in the country.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Miami of Ohio's is 364. Now, Auburn can schedule whoever it wants. Obviously, Miami of Ohio can't. And that's why I side with the mid-majors. And oh, by the way, it's just hard to win every dang game you play. And that's what they have done.
Auburn's strength of schedule, though, you look at the non-conference. Yes, close loss to Houston 1 point. They lost by 30 to Michigan, 29 to Arizona, and 28 to Purdue. So, it's a hard schedule. They also got their butts kicked in all these games. You're just getting credit for scheduling these? Do you get credit for playing close in any of these games? I don't know. That sounds like it's working the system a little bit.
When looking at the bubble, just going off of what Joe Lunardi has, It's funny, SMU has kind of trended down a little bit and is on those last 4 buys, but UCLA and Texas A&M each picked up huge wins to kind of almost solidify themselves. Yes. But they're both in the last 4 buys along with TCU. And
big win for TCU.
TCU got a big win. Yeah. But if you look at the last 4 in, it's Santa Clara, Herb Sendek, Ohio State, New Mexico, and Indiana. None of those teams. I mean, Ohio State, I believe
Ohio State and
beat
Indiana
Purdue.
Play one another.
They do. They play in the final season. Ohio State just beat Purdue at home.
Indiana's lost 4 straight, by the way.
Indiana's another one too.
Yeah.
When was this posted, by the way? The one that you're talking about?
This was posted at 9 a.m. yesterday.
Okay. So I have 11 o'clock last night, if you want to hear that one.
Sure.
Okay. Last 4 buys, Missouri, Texas A&M, SMU, UCLA. Last 4 in, Santa Clara, Ohio State, New Mexico, VCU. First 4 outs, Indiana, Auburn, Virginia Tech, San Diego State.
No Cal.
Next 4 out, USC, Cal, Cincinnati, Seton Hall.
Well, that home loss to Pitt for Cal.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I look at that scenario and go, a lot of these teams, like the bubble is up for the taking. And if you're Virginia Tech and can go into Charlottesville and beat a team that the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee had as a top 16 team in the first reveal, you can beat essentially a top 16 team in the country on their home floor. I think that should be enough to get Virginia Tech in the NCAA tournament, barring a collapse in Charlotte on Tuesday.
And bid thieves.
Bid thieves. I was just going to mention. I mean,
that too.
We can outline the perfect ideal situation for the tournament here, but you don't want to be in that last 4 in, because what if Miami of Ohio does lose in his conference tournament, or somebody else jumping up, and a team like Virginia Tech winning the ACC, however many years ago. That was a bid thief situation.
It sure was. The Hokies would not have made the field even if they had lost that championship.
That's amazing. But I mean, it happens every year. So, last 4 in, your knees are going to be knocking a little bit on Selection Sunday if some top teams get knocked off.
NC State 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah, and there's always somebody or multiple cases. Yeah. And the unique thing is that you're right now, before the bid thieves, the debate is about like 16 and 14 Auburn. But if a Virginia Tech beat a Virginia, that jumps Auburn and slides Auburn down, and it's just the opportunities are there to be in the conversation. Virginia Tech is, and I think that's what a lot of the fans have been so frustrated about all year, is if you win one of these SMUs, Miami's, Carolinas, you win one, you're probably in the field right now.
Even Stanford.
Yeah. I mean, they're gonna look back at those games and be like, how'd we blow those games?
So if Tech doesn't win on Saturday, what's their path, do you think? Obviously, it depends on who you play in the ACC tournament. But what is their path to get to the NCAA tournament if they don't win Saturday?
I think they'd
probably have to win it.
They got to run the table.
Win the tournament.
Maybe not run the table. It would depend on who they beat to all about the bracket. But a loss.
I think the committee has shown over and over that they don't put a whole lot of credence in what you do in these tournaments. The field is sort of set at that point, and barring winning it and guaranteeing your way into the field, I think was it Buzz Williams a couple years ago? Didn't he make a run with Texas A&M to the SEC championship game? They lost it and still did not make the field. Yes. Everybody's like, we're one of the hottest teams in the country at the end of the year.
That wouldn't have been the time that Buzz brought the rules and entire sheet of long form.
All of Buzz's former stops had the world's smallest violin for him at that moment. I don't think the fans were too upset about that whole thing, but it's like they sort of have the field set and they look at it. They don't look at it like how you're playing at the end of the year. That used to be something they would last 10.
It was on the team sheet.
That was something they do, and now it's like a November game means as much as what you do in your last time out. So you don't want to leave it you don't want to cram for the exam at the very last second. You want to do your work a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it would come down to I think they would probably have to make the semis from Tuesday. So win Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday to get to Friday. And you would have to hope that you're beating really good teams along the way, like a Louisville, like a Clemson, teams that would get you Q1 wins at home. Yeah. But that's easier said than done, obviously, and they've had the opportunities so far and have not capitalized on them. I'm not sure they would capitalize on them then either.
Yeah.
And they haven't shown the consistency to win that many games in that, in as many days.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think ideally too, maybe if you end up on, we were talking about it before the podcast, if you can match up with NC State or Clemson or Miami, games that you think are winnable that would be top 50 in the net, neutral site, floor, that would be, to your point, a quad one win, and you can continue to boost your resume if you do stuff like that. But that all depends on how the bracket shakes out, which we will find out more about on Saturday evening. So with that being said about the ACC tournament, you had brought this up before the podcast. Last week we talked about, I asked, would you take Duke or the field to win the whole thing in Charlotte? Everybody took Duke, and that was probably a pretty good pick based on how they looked on Saturday.
I'm even more convinced of that after watching them pound Virginia last week.
Based on what I saw in person Saturday and on my television screen 48 hours later against NC State, holy smokes.
So if Duke does not win the ACC tournament, Teel, and we'll go round table, who would be your pick to win in Charlotte as a whole?
If I knew Caleb Wilson's status, I might pick the Tar Heels, but I don't know that. And plus, I don't know how quickly he'll be assimilated into the lineup. I would take a Flyer because they can score and go on a heater. And that would be the SMU Mustangs.
Ooh.
Interesting. I'll tell you who I would not take. I would not take NC State. They're not playing well lately. My goodness, lost to Notre Dame. How do you lose to Notre Dame at this stage of the season? I'd probably take the Tar Heels. They seem to play well in this tournament. It's in Charlotte, correct?
It's in Charlotte,
so it can be a big pro Tar Heel contingent in the arena there. I know it's a boring pick to say, North Carolina to win the ACC tournament, but they're another team that I don't think they're afraid of Duke, which I think matters. I think some teams go up against Duke and they're really nervous about playing. It's like, this is our shot going against this team. They play tight, or Duke just dominates them. I don't think North Carolina ever goes into that game with that matchup. Even if Duke is better, I don't think that North Carolina is like in awe of playing against the Blue Devils where some other teams are. So I would take North Carolina.
I think Louisville is one that could make a run, but I'll go with Miami.
Yeah, that was my other. It was either SMU or Miami.
The Canes are so good defensively, and they're so unique because they don't like score really well from three. They're so an inside heavy team, but they've got some really, really good bigs in Renault and Uday, and Donaldson has played out of his mind
really
as of late. And you've got a point guard who can kind of will you to a win. Jay Lucas. I know he hasn't done it as a head coach, obviously, because this is his first season, but he's been on coaching staffs that have won, and he knows how to prepare. And the Canes just have something sticky about them where they seem to play just about everybody close. I know Florida State at the beginning of the hot streak beat them, but Miami almost had an opportunity to beat UVA in Charlottesville recently. I look at that Miami team and just go, I feel like they're capable if the right set of circumstances appear.
Miami SMU tonight.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to that game.
Where is that game?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
It
Andy mentioned that Carolina is
at SMU.
Okay.
is unafraid of Duke. I'll tell you who else is unafraid of Duke, and that's SMU. They went into Cameron, no Boopy Miller, by the way, and hung with them for darn near 40. And I think scored in the 80s against a team that is number one in the country in defensive efficiency. I'm telling you, they can score. Jaron Pierre, BJ Edwards. I mean, they've got guys.
Yeah. 82-75.
Okay, my bad.
Without Miller, though.
Yeah.
I mean, they They played. I think that game was like right before they played Virginia Tech. SMU. The problem with SMU is they don't play a whole lot of defense. At times. But man, when they get on and Samet Yigitolu is such a challenging matchup inside, and they get you in foul trouble, and it seems like, but along with Miller, they've just got options 2, 3, 4, including O'Neal, guys who can just kind of pop up out of the blue and take over games.
Yeah. Can hit a half-court shot when they need it, too.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. The other thing, too, with Carolina Duke, obviously very good basketball teams. They have the advantage being in Charlotte, but with ESPN setting the tip times, they're in all likelihood going to play the evening games now, too. So what, 7, 9:30, you may get Carolina for one and Duke for the other. So the Spectrum Center is going to be packed in Duke blue and Carolina blue Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So there's that side of things, too, I think.
Duke will be in the 7 o'clock game.
Yeah. yes.
Fairly safe bet.
Book it.
Duke 7 o'clock, Carolina 9:30. Could you pretty much pencil that in?
Probably.
So how's that going to work? Did they set it for the first round and then based on where you are? Because if you play like the late game one night, I can't imagine they have you turn around and play the early game the next day.
Well, see, here's the advantage with the semifinals now being at night rather than the afternoon like they used to be. Even if you have a noon quarterfinal, you're playing either a 7 or a 9:30 in the semis.
Nick, can we see the standings the standings real quick for the ACC? So right now you're setting up for a Carolina Duke semifinal.
Yeah. Just like last year.
Yeah, second straight year.
Absolutely. Yeah. And gosh, how much ESPN would love that in Charlotte. But Virginia, Miami would not. That's the interesting thing here. Like if you're a Miami team, you're on the opposite side of the bracket from Duke. Same for Virginia, on the opposite side of the bracket from Carolina. All you got to do, and Miami did not see Duke this year.
Right.
So this could set up for a very, very interesting
If Virginia Tech doesn't beat UVA, it would hope that the standings would stay like this. Because if they did an 11-14 matchup in the first round, they'd get Wake Forest. If they win that, they get a 6. Louisville, which is a tough team. But Louisville hasn't played well away from home.
And Mikel Brown is hurt. Yeah. He didn't play last night.
If you could get by that, you could get the 3 seed Miami.
Or no, he's not playing tonight.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, my bad.
Well, if you get by that, you get the 3 seed Miami, which if you're looking at the top 4 seeds there, I think Miami's the one I'd choose to play.
Oh, yeah.
Of those 4 teams. I mean,
Sure.
and Duke is on the other side of the bracket. So, I mean, I know these standings are going to get all shuffled up here in the next couple of days. But, man, if it could stay like this and you're trying to make a run in the tournament, you can kind of see it. Get into the 3-6 line there and going through the tournament. I think that is how you can make some hay in the tournament.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Teel, as always, appreciate you swinging by. It's such a treat when you come in to record in person. So
it's great.
We appreciate you coming up to Blacksburg. Next week is the ACC tournament in Charlotte, so I'm sure we'll talk about how we're going to handle that. But if we don't see you before then, which we probably won't, enjoy it down there and then enjoy wherever you're headed for the NCAA tournament, too, because it should be a fun couple of weeks for David Teel.
My 43rd consecutive ACC tournament.
That is outstanding. That is awesome. For the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer David Teel, David Cunningham, Andy Bitter, Nick Brown, I'm Carter Hill saying so long from episode 25 of Talking With Teel, presented by State Farm. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk to you very soon.